Oh my god, it's been a while. All right, so let's get straight to the point. Technically, this is a paid advertisement because they gave me the plugin to test and try out, so I have to get that out of the way. I mean, they didn't tell me what to say, so like this is completely me just kind of trying this thing out for the first time. There is an affiliate link down there, so if you do want to check out the plugin, click the link down there, and there's a discount code. I think you get like 20% off, and it's like on sale, I think, generally in the beginning when it comes out. So I don't know what the prices actually are, but yeah, if you do want to help me out, use the link in the description. There you go. All right, this video is about this plugin, Interloper. This is what it looks like. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. Like, you can drag samples into it and then mess around with it. So here's a snare. You can drag it over here and preview it. Here's another one. Okay. So now you got this middle section, that quote interpolation section, where you can go between the two, right? So let me turn that down a bit. So if I press my MIDI controller, now it's playing both of the samples, right? Pretty straightforward. So if I go take all these sliders to the left, now it's just basically going to play this sample. And if I trigger my MIDI controller, it's the same, right? So, okay. Now, if you turn the high dial, you're going to start to see this upper area sort of change in accordingly. So it's basically taking the high content from sample B and adding it to sample A now. Right? And same thing with the mids. And then same thing with the lows. One thing that's not maybe super obvious is these crossover points here. If I drag this high section here, but I want this actually to affect even higher, I can just turn up the high crossover range here. And you can see this turns blue, by the way. And these dots and the colors actually mean something. So blue is the high band, green is the mid band, and then the sort of whatever orange is the low band. And it looks like this interpolation thing actually changes color there too. Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's kind of clever. I'm not like maybe super big fan of this waveform view. Like, I would like to have an even more accurate like option for like a normal waveform, but you can actually drag it. If you shift drag it, you can get it to like go in the middle, and you can scroll with your mouse, and it's very slow, but you can see it's kind of getting bigger. But you can see these colors in here, which is sometimes kind of useful. So like if I'm adding low end, you can start to see how it affects the sample. I use this oscilloscope a lot. This isn't a perfect example of it, but it would be nice to be able to sort of overlay samples on top of each other like this instead. That might be more useful for people, so you could kind of stack them and really see the wave. This is still the first iteration of this plugin, so probably lots of room to improve here. Or you can reset it here. The mid-side processing is not super obvious, but let's say I have this high end here. If I slide this mid band all the way to the right and slide the side band all the way to the left, it's now entirely mids focused. So you only really get the mono signal of this sample. Like if I go all the way to the left here and all the way to the right here, now it's really wide. So that's useful. And then, of course, you can save and load presets up here. So it's pretty self-explanatory there. So, like, that's it. But, I mean, it's a kind of a fun way to do it, right? Like, so if you wanted to do this traditionally, you know, which is very common, you would have to do a bunch of EQing, right? But this is just kind of like a fun way to, like, do the thing that you always do. And it's super intuitive. But so that's the general idea. If I just cover some of the other basics real quick, there's an ADSR for the obvious like sample level, so you can change the length of the sample and all that basic stuff. Then there's two effects sections here. So you got a transient designer, a mid-side thing, compressor, You can change the gain. I think this, I haven't actually messed with it. Just now realized that you can mess with the start time. I'm doing this kind of on the fly here, so forgive me. FX2 is soft clipper, high pass and low pass, a convolver, which is actually really cool for this kind of stuff, because I love throwing, like, here, let me just show you. Throw this sample into here, right? Okay, so now you hear that snare going through a convolution of this sample, the classic scat jazz thing, you know? Super useful, I think, for drums, because you can add, like, weird top textures. Anyway, there's a normal reverb. I haven't actually even tried that. I probably personally don't see any use for that, but whatever, it's there. And then, obviously, like, the other big thing here is you can generate the samples just like you can in Deep Sampler or Emergent Drums, which I've covered before. If you want to check out those videos, go for it. So, yeah, I can show you that real quick here. So you can choose what type of thing you want. So let's just pick Snare, I guess, for this. And you got 4 different styles, which is quite a lot. Let's try maybe Snappy. I don't honestly remember what these differences are, but here you can click Generate. And I think this requires internet, if I remember right. I haven't tested that, but yeah, so here we go. There's a new sample. Yeah, well, let's hear it through the convolver. Kind of weird. Okay, anyway, so I can kind of shape that. Let me turn that. The pitching is okay. Let's try and generate a new one. Let's go, if I change this diff dial, it's going to basically, like, the more to the right you go, the more different it'll be. And the more you stay to the left, the more similar to this one it'll be. So I'll just go, like, fully different. Generate another one. Let's see what we get. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. Yeah, let's use that, and then let's, like, try the soft clipper. Let's use just, I mean, you don't really need to use these low pass, high passes, honestly, because you got this. So, I mean, you can, I guess, but let's try the compressor a little. It's pretty good, actually. Ain't too shabby. So now let's bleed some of this into it. Let's go, like, shorter on this. Let's get some of this mid in there. Maybe turn this down a hair. It's like a DMB snare. Like, if you keep it really tight. Okay, you get it. You get the idea. There you go. I mean, I'm not going to go and generate a million things. You can mess around with that yourself. I just want to show you, like, a bunch of different things that I've kind of messed around with this, because there's some non-obvious things that you can do with this, because this is, like, I think what it's really, like, built to do, which is just, like, create new kind of hybrid samples. Like, to me, it's like, actually, I'll show you this real quick. It's kind of reminds me of this other plugin called Visco, which is really cool too. It's in its own way. It does a sort of similar thing, so I'll show you. So this is Visco. So you got all these different samples here. You can get, like, a drum, like a kit. I put these 2 snares in here, so it's this one and then this one. I wanted to show you the difference here between these 2 plugins. So this sample in here is essentially exactly the same, right? But in Visco, I noticed that when I drag the sample in, it's supposed to be the same, but it's, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. Pardon me if I am to the developers of this. I could be just ignorant about this, but there it is anyway. So that's the sample, this one. You hear the difference there a bit. But and then here's the other one. If I drag the slider over, And then you can go in between the two, right? So. And it's cool because you can do some unique stuff with that. But it's not quite accurate the way that this interloper is. Like, that just sounds the same. Anyway, I love Visco, don't get me wrong. It's really fun. There's a lot of cool things you can do with it. But this isn't about Visco. I have all these examples I want to show. So here's just another example of a snare. So it's two of these together. This one, and then that one. And together, they're that one. And, like, you can mess with them, right? So it's really fast, like. And by the way, you can automate these things, which is really dope. Like, I don't know. Like, there's so many fun things you can do with this that is kind of like not maybe the most obvious thing that it's maybe not even built to do. The coolest plugins to me are the ones where they make it and they don't really know what people are going to do with it, and then you just mess around with it and you make some weird stuff, and then like the plugin like sort of takes shape into like whatever the user wants it to become. I guess it's a weird way of putting it, but I think you know what I'm saying here. I always love to try to like just break the plugin when I first get it. So another thing that I noticed basically you can do with it is really cool for is 808s, which is like not my thing. Like I'm not like a, oh my god, 808s thing, like because I always usually make those in Serum. But this is kind of fun. Like you just throw two 808s in, and because it's like sort of, I don't know actually how it's doing it. Like I said, I haven't talked to them about this, but it's sort of intermodulating the two samples into one, and you get this like interesting effect. So like here's one sample. That's what it sounds like on its own. And then here's the other. Right? So, but you can do the same thing here. You can, I can choose the low end of just the left one, let's say. Or the right one. And then let's say I like that. Now I can just trickle in more mids from the other one. Or that one. Or vice versa. Or whatever, And you can really quickly like get really interesting and different types of results for 808s, where like you might really like the distortion of one, but you absolutely hate the quality of the low end or whatever. So you can kind of just marry two together. Like you take one from one, and you know what I mean? So, and you don't have to, you can take an 808 and put a vocal in there. I don't know, like that sounds cool. Why not? And it's just like, again, if you wanted to do that, you could do that with EQing and all this stuff. But man, that takes a while because you have to set up the channels and do all that stuff and like really get in there and start sound designing. But here you got this like sort of little playground to just kind of throw stuff in. Like, you know what? Let's just do it. Like, let's grab a. This sounds like a cow. Let me drive the cow. This is dumb. Why do I always do this? I'm trying to make up. Old MacDonald had an 808. Let me go to the next example because this will show you the power of what I'm trying to do here more. Bass design. Here, check it out. So here are two Noisia bass sounds. These two, right? I'll show you the thing that's really cool where you can automate stuff, right? Moves like this, for example. So like, let's say I want to start all the way from this sound and I want it to go into this other sound. I can morph kind of in between the two. So I can be like, that, or like, let's take the mid or the high. Or just like the opposite, like. You know what I mean? But so I don't know if this is because this is like still kind of early stages, but I noticed that the only one of these 3 interpolation dials that I could get to automate was this high one. So here you can see I made a little tweak. See, it's following that. So for some reason, these ones aren't, it's not letting me actually configure them. See, like, check it out. It should show up here, but for whatever reason, it's not. So I'm sure that'll get fixed, which will be cool because you can do some really cool bass sound design stuff like this. Okay, I'll leave it there because, again, this will be 1,000,000 hours long if I start to show more stuff like that. But okay, so here's another one. Check it out. So I was curious. I was like, what if I throw a loop in it? Like, because the other plugin that this kind of is reminding me of is from Zynaptiq's Morph, which I love for bass sound design. It's so fun. And like, something that I love to do with Morph, for example, is I'll have an ARP and then like another sound, and I'll blend the two together so that the ARP starts to take the characteristic of the other sound, or like maybe two ARPs that are doing different types of sounds and patterns, and then blend those in. So I was like, okay, let me try that, but like the only way to do that is basically bounce out two loops that are doing the exact same, like, or that are in the same tempo, and then are, you know, aligned together on some level at least. So I did that, and I bounced those into this. So check it out. Let me turn this down again. So here's one. Right? So it's just that. And then the other is like just a weird vocal version of the same thing. Right? So if I put those together... But now I can do the same thing. So I can go and morph between the two, right? So I can go all the way left and just keep the highs here. Right. So that's just the ARP. And then I can blend the other one in. You get the point. Anyway, interesting thing to explore there too. So that's like kind of like the standard quote unquote way of using this, which is honestly like really fun on its own. I really am gonna get a lot of use out of just that functionality. All right, so one of the most like common problems in music production and mixing, and I guess general music just production mixing stuff, is the sort of struggle to get your kick and snare to function together when they happen at the same time. So that's mostly in dance music, right? So like you got a kick that's 4 on the floor, and then you got to layer a snare on top of that. If that snare has a lot of low end as well, now you have to EQ that out so you can like sort of get it to sit with the kick so their low ends aren't fighting together. It's a common thing. Like, so check it out. Like here's a kick and here's a snare. All right. Now, here's just some random pattern, you know, standard 4 on the floor kick thing. Right, so if I want the snare to like here hit with the actual punch, I have to put it on its own channel so that I can leave the low end out, or, you know, not EQ that out. Like on this one, I have to. Like when the snare hits with the kick, the snare sounds like this. Let me get rid of that reverb for a second. Right, so you can see the EQ here. Without it, it's just... But if you play the kick together with that, it's just kind of muddy, right? So you need to do this basic sort of EQ move. And that works. And it's like really simple. And it doesn't take a lot of time, right? Like it's really like that simple sometimes. Sometimes the samples just really do sound totally good with a simple EQ curve like that. But sometimes they don't. And sometimes you have to do weird stuff like really like line this stuff up and like use phase rotation. Phase rotation. Oh my God. Like, you can watch that video if you want. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole thing. But yeah. But I'll show you a phase rotation example in a second. So, right. But in this case, they kind of work when you just do a really simple EQ move like this. Right? But then again, like if I just drag this over here and played that loop again, mute this one, it won't sound right. Right? Like, you hear that? Like, that's not how you want that last snare to sound like. You don't want it to be all thin like that. You want it to be all beefcakey. Beefcake! Like this. Or whatever, you know? So, anyway. Here, I'll show you a couple other examples of this idea with Interloper now included. So check it out. This is example number 1. So here's a kick, right? Same kick. And here's another kind of snare. Different character. Together, again, sort of muddy, like kind of weird. Not bad, but like I don't have any EQ on this right now. I just pulled it down in volume a lot. So you just kind of like, you just tuck it in. Volume is your friend. You can do a lot with volume. Like if you just have this loud, you know, just turn that down. Kind of works, but it's not right. But check this out. All right. See? All of a sudden, way better. Now, what's happening there is it's Interloper. And, okay, here we're getting into the weeds of it. But, like, I'll show you. So this was my idea. I was like, what if I just take the kick and the snare and I interlope them together? What would that sound like? And this is the result. It's not perfect, but you can use it. Here it is. So here's the kick, and here's the snare, and then this is together. Now, I kind of tweaked this, and I've noticed a couple little things. One is that I would like to see a function where basically you could say that, like, when sample A, for example, hits, the front of this sample gets precedence over, like, it will always be the first thing you hear. And you could, like, sort of have a slider for, like, 10 milliseconds of sample A will always come first. Because basically the problem that I'm hearing here is, like, the top end of the kick is kind of getting lost when I start to add in the high end of the snare. So if I just play, I'll show you. So now it's just the kick, basically, perfectly. But if I want to make the sort of hybrid version where the kick and the snare happen at the same time, I have to start blending this top end in, right? You can start to hear the kick loses a little bit of the click of the kick. So it would be, so I thought I was going to be able to get away with it basically by, like, nudging this attack or something. But the click of the kick, the click of the kick is still gone. See? So if Audialab guys are watching this, it would be awesome if there was a way to sort of, like, say, I want sample A to always, like, dominate for, I don't know how to explain that, but you know what I mean? Like, because then that would be really cool, because then I could blend this snare on top of it and then know that that kick is still staying clean underneath it. But, like, here's the deal. Like, it's not like it's absolutely necessary, because I'll show you what I basically did after I kind of got a good balance going. So I'll just kind of do that again here. Attack all the way down. Okay, so you get the idea. Now, so I was like, well, can I just export the snare and then now use that as my sort of starting point? And I don't know if there's a way. I wish there was, like, a way to just kind of drag this out, but you can't. It just kind of goes crazy, which is kind of fun. But I don't see, like, a drag thing. I don't actually know what this... Oh, that just aligns the thing. But I wish you could just drag this out and it would, you know, like... You know what I mean? So the workaround is, here's the clean one of just the snare on Interloper. So that's just the snare now. And basically all I did was just turn this, you know, ADSR section all the way down. And I guess you could just turn the gain down here too. But I don't see, like, a way to mute these. So if there was a way to just, that would be nice too. Like, just have a solo button or something and a mute button. Obviously, like I said, this is still very early in the stages of this plugin, I think. So I'm sure a lot of this kind of stuff will still get added and changed. So anyway, so there you go. That's the snare. Here it was previously. And here it is new. It's just thinner, right? So And then I export it. Here it is in sample form. And then now you can use it like as a normal sample again. Like, and now you got the clean kick here, right? So now I'm not sacrificing the top end of that kick, right? Okay, so you get the idea. I'm not sure how much, like, because the thing that it reminds me of, and this is a little bit of like a speculation thing, because like I said, I don't know how this is actually working, like what the algorithm is doing, like what the sort of machine learning thing is happening here. But like Audialab made Deep Sampler, and when you create a kick in the Deep Sampler and you give it a kick and you like, it'll kind of like correct the phase of it and it'll make it like really solid because it's kind of like resynthesizing it or something. So I'm wondering if that's happening here too or not. Okay, I actually did confirm this part, and it is not using machine learning or AI to do the interpolations part. So it makes me believe that it's probably some sort of phase rotation algorithm or tool underneath it that is doing that for you. Something kind of like what Neutron has built in. I mean, like I said, you can watch the
phase rotation
video here somewhere. From every test that I've done, when you do add a snare and a snare, a kick or a snare or stuff together, the combination is always nice, which is cool because it lets you skip the phase rotation, phase alignment, all that sort of stuff. So far, like I said, it's cool. It just works. Whatever else is going on in the background, I don't know. I didn't ask questions, but hey, it works. So there you go. Basically, this is the combination of the two, right? And here, let me show you. If I just try to just purely EQ that snare, like the way that I did earlier, like this. Like here, you see, this is just a normal EQ move with the snare here. So it sounds like this. And I have it turned down, and this is just with the normal kick and the sample. It's not right. It's not this. Like, that's way tighter. See what I mean? So it's making me think that it is kind of thinking about the phases and stuff, which basically lets you skip phase rotation. Because I think on their website they actually talk about this. They do mention the problems of today, like the things that, we run into, which is one of them is they say muddy mixes trying to combine two sounds often leads to phase issues and a cluttered mess. I'll show you what I had to do to get this to sound correct, which is here on this channel, Snare. So here is like a normal EQ move first that I had to do. And then I added some transient shaper, basically taking down some of the attack. I compressed it. And then here's a crazy looking Pro Q4. Basically, I was using all pass filters to kind of mess with the phase more. And then at the end, there's an actual
phase rotation.
So I'm rotating the phase at the end of it. And the end result is this. Versus, you hear that? It's just kind of like thumpy and muddy. And so this is quite close to this Interloper version here. See? But, like, I had to do all that, like, to make it work. Without it, it's garbage. Well, I also had to turn it up. So, anyway, you get the point, right? So, there are occasions where it actually could be pretty helpful to just throw the snare on top of the kick in Interloper and see what it does. Because it might just, like if you have a problematic thing, Anyway, like, here's a couple different examples that I used some different kicks and snares. So, here's another one. So, yeah, as you can hear, no EQ, just raw. Kind of meh. Here's the Interloper version. With just, like, the actual kick and snare together. And then here is just the kick and snare. Or, I mean, where the snare is just, like, on its own. And then here's the exported Interloper snare. So that's what it did to it. Or what I did to it in Interloper. And now I can use it as a normal snare again. And then what is this? Oh, yeah. But check it out. Like, with this particular snare, it's just a pure normal EQ move, like just a high pass, and it already sounds pretty good. Like, so you don't always have to do like anything crazy. Like, and here's another example. Check it out. Right? So this first one is just the raw one. Just really thumpy. Here's the interloper version. Here's the sample EQ'd. I could get that better, but okay, again, just EQ kind of working there for you. Here's like one more example. Okay, so what's happening here? I was trying to make like it the most problematic that I could. See, that's not right. That doesn't sound good. But this one is interloper. Okay, so I'm doing more stuff here. Let's check it out. So there's the kick. So this one I was actually, I think... No, it's just the balance. I'm not even doing anything crazy over here. I don't know why the mid side is on. It's not doing anything. But yeah, so it's just, you know, using these. Yeah, you can pretty quickly like shape it, and you can honestly the ADSR thing is pretty handy. You know, but like again, it's not like you have to use this tool for this, but it's there. It's an option now. And then again, here's just an EQ, and you can kind of get it close, right? But like I showed in that first example, you couldn't just do it with EQ. Sometimes they can be more problematic. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm sure there's like a billion other things you can do with this, but that's the gist of it. Okay, so I now have in my hands the actual release version. Anyway, I just wanted to mention a few things that have changed. Pretty simple stuff, honestly. But you now have the solo button here on both of the samples. So when you trigger it on your MIDI, you now hear just the channel that you have soloed. The only issue currently is that I have like these effects applied to this channel. You can hear it there, but when I solo it, you don't hear all these effects being applied, like the soft clipper and the reverb. I'm sure they'll change that. There's now this like master level indicator, but that also isn't being triggered by MIDI right now. Again, they know that. They'll change that. So this is another thing. Now the automation is working. So you can see all this stuff that's working now. So this is really cool. Oh, whoops. That's a different sample in there. But you can see it's kind of like the same idea here. I'm actually automating these three here, and that sample is now getting interpolated with this sample. Okay, so there's an example for you. One other thing that I was kind of interested in was like if you made a poly thing out of it. So here's like two sounds. And I was like, what if I make a poly synth out of it and like have LFOs controlling the high, mid, and low band, so it's like sort of evolving between the two sounds. That's kind of cool. And then that made me think like, well, what if, I mean, I can probably just build that, right, with like a normal Ableton thing. So I made this real quick, and here's a comparison. Kind of similar. I mean, I just made a little instrument rack that does that same thing here. It's not the same though. There's something, I mean, obviously like you could probably make a pretty good one inside of Ableton that's not just like my 2-second version of that, which by the way, I was just using EQ3 just to control the different bands. And then one more thing real quick was like Okay, like I was like, what if I interlope like a traditional like sound design thing, like with like a bass sound and like a lion, and then compare that to Morph, which is the plugin that I was telling you about earlier. So here's a wub, and then here's a lion, right? Here is the interloper version of those two. And honestly, this is where I think Morph wins currently. So like you can see, like here, if I move these around, there's just the lion, and then I can, you know, just maybe take the lows from the sub, and like move the crossover point maybe a little bit. I mean, so you can do that, but it's not doing the thing like that I would imagine it doing. It's pretty clean, and it really just sounds like the two samples are kind of getting layered on top of each other. This is the morphed version of the lion and the bass, so I'm going to turn this down a bit. Like you can get that texture-y kind of thing happening here because it's using like different algorithms like fusion and all these different things. So let me try like another one. Like here, let's see. You can hear like the different types of textures just start to like interplay with each other. Oh, plus I love messing with the format. But anyway, you can really quickly get some crazy sounds out of this. You can't really do this with Interloper because, like I said, you don't have these different types of algorithms. Anyway, it's not really like meant for that either, though. So, you know, a plugin can't be every plugin at once. So, yeah. Sorry for this very kind of ranty, unorganized explanation of it, but yeah. Well, there you go. That's the plug. Let me know what you think about it. I think it's pretty cool. Like I said, do you need it? I don't know. No, you don't need it. But is it fun? Yeah, it's cool. It's different. Again, like the whole purpose of like I'm not interested in plugins if they're not like doing something new. You know what I mean? Like, I think I said this already, but I don't want another compressor or an EQ. I don't need another compressor. I haven't needed another compressor in like 10 years or 15 years. Like, if you're gonna make a compressor, holy crap, the bar is high. If you're gonna make an EQ, holy crap, that's a high bar. Reverbs, delays, I don't care. Like, yeah. But this is different. I respect that. That's cool. Like, you gotta respect people trying something new. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of Morph and Visco, but it's a little different still. I'll definitely be messing with it more. Yeah. Everybody says thanks for watching. See you next time. Am I supposed to say that? This video is sponsored by Apple and Harley Davidson. Can you imagine this was sponsored by Apple? Whoa. Hit me up though. Like, I mean, I'll take the M4 Max Ultra, whatever. Yeah, like I said, this isn't changing the world, this plugin or anything, but it's just like it gives some fun options, you know? All right, I'm done. See you when I see you, you know? Peace.